Summerfield. What are the preparations also? Is that off?
Yeah, man. Good morning to everyone, or good day to everyone. There hasn't been any preparation at this stage for Summerfield because the team is off. But obviously the coaches and the analysts are probably trying to collect as much data as possible about the opposition that we are playing, because there is no game that we take for granted at Sundowns. We give it our best shot. We're also profiling the team, and we have realized that they've got quite a lot of former PSL players. Some of them are the players that I worked with before. Nene, he was a former player, centre back or central midfield. They also have Zuke, who everybody knows. He also played for Colinaros as well. We have Manqoba Mngqithi, the former Celtics and I think Royal AM striker, but he spent more time at Celtics. They've got quite a big number of players that have got vast experience in the PSL. And even some of the games that we have played in the league are not very helpful because there is age restriction. The moment they are playing in the Nedbank, they bring a completely different team with a lot of experienced players. But we are confident that we will have to give it our best shot, and players will be ready to compete, and understanding the fact that they are coached by Phil Wilson, who is a very capable coach and a coach that has caused a lot of upset Sundowns before. You'll remember the Telkom Cup, you'll remember the M10-8 at Lucas Moripe when he was at Celtics. So we are fully aware that we are playing against a very experienced coach with a lot of very experienced players, and we will have to tread very carefully and respect the opposition that we are playing.
Thank you. Any questions from the floor?
Thank you. Coach, in your last game in the Nedbank Cup, I think you played against Matata. On the bench, I saw Pule Maraisani. I think for me, one of the most gifted players in the league. Unfortunately, we haven't seen him, but in terms of his close control, the way that he handles the ball, I think he's one of the most gifted players with the ball at feet. Are we likely to see him on Saturday or maybe during the course of the season? Because, as I said, the talent that he's got is absolutely second to none. Thank you.
Yeah, we are hoping that these boys will get a chance at some point. It's always important to give them a run in matches like this. But we are also having a challenge with our periodization sometimes, because we play this match whilst preparing for the next match. And at times you would have seen that we brought Otemba Zwane instead of bringing Opule against Matata in the latter stages of the game, because we felt if Otemba were to be out for longer, not having game time, it will also not help us in their sharpness for the forthcoming matches. So we will have to look at it very closely. But the truth of the matter is, as coaches, we also felt the need that we should have them around, and possibly the experience they will gain in the process will help us. I fully agree with you. Pule is a very talented football player, very, very talented, very good dribbler, good close control, and surprisingly also very strong in the air for a boy that is not very tall. He scores some very interesting goals with his head. We are hoping he will get an opportunity, but I would not want to guarantee that, because the match that, like I said yesterday, the matches that we are playing are all matches of consequence. Every match has got something for you. The opposition wants to achieve something, you want to achieve something, but at the same time, with us, we are playing this match, but our eyes are already on the preparation for the next match, because we want to make sure that our team is kept refreshed and ready to compete at any given stage. And that makes it a little bit difficult sometimes to give other players, more especially when we still have a mix of the Champions League and our domestic cups inside, because in the Champions League there are players that are not registered in the Champions League, and in the league those players are eligible to play in the Nedbank Cup. So if you are going to have a Nedbank Cup, a Champions League, it becomes difficult. But maybe when you put a Nedbank Cup, the league, and the Champions League, maybe that presents a better scenario for some of these players to get the opportunity.
Lorenzo from Summerfield Times. Obviously now it's the business end of the season, make or break. You're either successful or you're not successful now. Are you planning on resting some of the key figures like Peter Shalulile, this game particularly playing against a lower division team? And obviously his numbers don't lie. Do you consider him now as one of the best players on the continent at the moment?
Maybe let's wait for
Sorry, coach.
Can you repeat your question?
Okay, first question, Coach. Are you planning on resting some of your key players? Because obviously there's Champions League at stake now. And Peter Shalulile, obviously his numbers don't lie at the moment. Do you consider him as one of the best players in Africa at the moment on the continent?
Maybe starting from the first question. It's very difficult to rest players when you are going for a cup match. You try that, you take that risk sometimes, but you don't want to backfire. Because, like I said to you, in as much as in the book we are playing an ABC Montserrat League team, but the truth of the matter, we are playing against a team that has got a lot of PSL players. And that says we must take them very seriously, because you don't want to say if and but this thing could have been different. So we treat every match with the respect that it requires. We try the best we can to rotate our squad as much as we can, but at the same time, fortunately, the coaches that I work with, we think alike when it comes to making sure that we always bring the best team at that time that we think can help us to win the match. There is a chance that some of the players might not play in the process, but I would not want to confirm that, because at this stage you are saying, do you want to be sorry or you want to make sure that you are not sorry? So that becomes a very big question. And on Peter, you are right, his numbers are very good. He has done very well ever since he joined the club. He is one of our best scorers, but besides his scoring rate, I would regard him as one of the best professional players that I've ever worked with before I even go to his scoring. I think Peter is a very exemplary player to any young professional that aspires to become a top footballer. I think there is a lot you can learn from the humility that he presents. He's one player that will probably be number one if there was a meeting here. Will be number one on the pitch every game, even if we're playing a small-sided game. He's got this mentality of wanting to score, of wanting to see the ball touching the net, and that makes him to have some of the best attributes of some of the top players. No wonder his consistency, because if you check at Highlands Park, the goals he scored, he comes to Sundowns 2 seasons in a row, he's delivering, and that says he is one of the most important players for Sundowns. And if he's the most important player for Sundowns, then naturally that says he's one of the biggest players in Africa, because we believe Sundowns is one of the biggest competitors in Africa. So I will agree with you to say I think he's one of the best players in the continent.
Hi there, Coach. It's Manqoba from Sunday World. Coach, Clinton Lassen was saying in the media that there stands no chance against Mamelodi Sundowns in this game. Do you think it could be mind games or it could be just one of those games where it's a high-scoring game for Sundowns?
One thing I can tell you about football is that there is no game that you as a coach you go to play, or as a team you go to play not thinking or seeing a possibility that you can steal it. When Clinton says they stand no chance, if you listen to that, you will be fooled. Because the truth of the matter is, when he was coaching Celtics, he would come with a very low block against us to try and make sure that he frustrates us as much as possible and steals the result at the end. He has done that several times. So now he's coming with this team that is very much unknown to many people, and it's easy for people to think it is going to be over because we are playing an ABC Motsepe League team. But this team has just qualified in their stream in KZN to go to the playoffs to get into the NFT. And this is one of the well-resourced teams in the ABC Motsepe League in KZN. Probably a team that is most likely to come into that space of Chatsworth Rangers because it's based in Chatsworth and it's well supported in that space. So I do not want to be fooled by what Clinton is saying. I know he's coming to spring a surprise here, and we have to guard against any element of complacency and arrogance because we don't want to be hurt.
Next question.
Okay. In fact, Coach, as someone who's coached in that division, I wanted to look at this team because normally teams that are there, they don't really concentrate on the Nedbank Cup because they're vying for a promotion at this stage. So when it comes to your opponents, Dynamos, this weekend, they are already through, they're the champions there, they're waiting for the national playoffs. So I guess for them, this is an extra motivation playing you this weekend.
Yeah, and it's also a preparation for them to see how far they are in their preparations for the playoffs. We are playing against a team one that has nothing to lose. You must never take that for granted in football. When you are playing against people, if you beat them, so what? But if they beat you, there is so much to be said. And I always say, personally as a coach, if there are any games in football that I'm always very particular about, are the games where everybody expects me to win. Those games where everybody thinks you are going to win and they don't care are the games that are the most stressful for a coach, because you want to make sure that you don't leave any stone unturned there, because one, you must remember, players are usually not intrinsically motivated to play those matches. They subconsciously, there is that element that says we are going to win this match, and you as a coach you have to fight that element as much as you can. I was making an example yesterday about the game of Almeric, when we had already qualified for the quarterfinals of the Champions League, with a lot of motivation and a lot of a fight to try and make them understand that we are trying to better our benchmarks. But if you look at the performance, the first half performance of that match, it tells you that there was an element subconsciously of complacency and taking things for granted, because our first half was not very good. And in terms of numbers and stats, I think we were 5 kilometers below our normal average at 45 minutes. And the number of shots at goals were also not looking good. The number of box entries were not looking good. And those are things as coaches that we should always be particular about, because they are indicators that maybe something is not taken as seriously as you think. Then fortunately with the coaching staff that one has, we pushed the team very hard at halftime. We fought with them very hard to make sure that they understand the importance of the match and they go out and give it their best shot. And the second half was completely different. All the numbers improved suddenly, and we scored 2 goals in the process. So I'm just saying, even on this one, You will try and push and motivate, but sometimes one or two will be thinking, no man, why the coaches are stressing? We are playing an ABC Motsepeli team, and those teams are normally the most dangerous. You don't want to be complacent against a team that everybody thinks you are going to beat.
Good morning, Coach. On something a bit different. Looking at the progress that you guys have made in the league, my personal feeling is that the only way you won't win the league is if something really bad happens. You have made progress there. Are you guys going to be tempted to sort of say maybe some of your established players may be rested or be saved for the Champions League? Or you are going to go for a sort of a horses for courses kind of a situation, taking game by game?
Yeah, to be honest with you, my brothers, we as Sundowns we are competing against ourselves more than we are competing against our competitors. We have our own process that we are following in terms of our cycles in the league and the number of points that we want to acquire per cycle of 5 matches. And that is always the driving force of what we want to achieve. It takes a little bit of pressure away from us because the focus is always on those small cycles, and if we are doing well in those cycles, then the process takes care of itself. So even now, when everybody is looking at the championship, we are looking at bettering our best. We are looking at how can we improve from the 67 points that we got last year. How far can we go? And as it is, do we still have a chance of improving the benchmark of the 71 points that we once achieved as Sundowns? So that driving force makes us to focus in our own process more than focusing on what is outside, because when everybody else is excited outside that we have won the championship, maybe we'll be reeling inside that we did not achieve what we believe we could have achieved, because there are certain milestones that we have to achieve because they help us to always try to better and objectively believe we can do better than the previous season. And that is exactly what we are facing now, where everybody else is looking at the points on the log table, but we are looking more at our process and making sure that we don't falter in that space, because it has bearing on us next year now, going back and saying, but guys, we could have been there and we would be working to better that best. But now we have taken ourselves probably below what we had last season, or slightly higher than what we had last season, but below the 71 points that we once got before. So already, Tina, we've got our own pressures inside the club, and those are the processes that always guide what we do in each and every match. And like you said, we believe in all the players we have. We believe they are all experienced enough to help us to win a match. So at times when we look at that rotation, it would be like we are taking some matches for granted, but maybe it would not be that. It would be because we are trying to make sure that we play according to how we have profiled the opposition, because the players that we have fit different systems and different approaches based on the different opponents that we play against. So it's always important for us to look, we are playing against a counter-attacking team, we are playing against a high-pressing team, we are playing against a possession-based team, we are playing against a team with a lot of dribblers. Those will always tell us who is the best candidate to play a particular match, and we will always take each match as seriously as we can.
Karabo, Pasha, then Lorenzo. Is there anyone who has not asked a question? Maybe let's start with those. So, there are questions. Go ahead and go in there.
Coach, how difficult or maybe how easy is it for you guys as coaches to keep a squad that consists of so many superstars? How easy or difficult is it to keep them happy? Because you can only field 11 players.
It's very difficult, but one must appreciate the leadership that we have in the team from the top to the technical team, the management and everyone, because everybody is involved in making sure that those ones that need a pat at the back, they always get that pat at the back to say your time is coming, you will get an opportunity. And for whatever reason, with God's grace, we have managed to play almost everyone in our squad this season, which augurs very well for everybody to believe that the coaches have got the best interest of all of us at heart. So based on that, we are fortunate because the games have forced us to not to concentrate on 18, 19 players and leave other players on the side. So everybody else has had a contribution to make in the team. Probably only the youngsters have not participated in that space. Thank you.
I think it was more or less the same question. Yeah.
Nyandu, you had a question?
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay. Coach, not to get ahead of yourselves, but have you looked at the fixtures properly? The Champions League, the Nedbank Cup final seems to be in the same weekend. Are you looking forward to that? I think, I can't recall, I think there was a time previously where things had to be forced to be changed because of how things progressed, and judging by how things are going, you could be facing a similar situation.
Yeah, I think on that one, it's a problem that really does not belong to us. That is a problem that belongs to other people. So if that moment comes, then we have to deal with it. Ours is to try and make sure that we win the matches that we have to play and get ourselves in positions that we will be happy to achieve. If that problem comes into play, I believe the people who are in charge of the fixtures and all that will be able to look into it and come out with suggestions in that regard.
Lorenzo?
Coach, just team news ahead of the game. Who's unavailable? Who's coming back? First thing.
Almost the whole squad is back now. The only few players that are still out, it's Gift Motupa, Rivaldo Coutinho, Ewin Saavedra. At this stage, those are the ones that I'm thinking about. Tapelo Mrena is also not, we are not sure yet whether he'll be back or not, but he should be back very soon. But almost everybody else is available. Unless I'm forgetting someone, but at this stage I think everybody else is close to playing. Even Dennis is almost ready to play. Kennedy had flu in the previous match. I believe he will be back for this one. So the whole squad is probably available.
Last two questions. Any questions?
I can take it.
Okay. You can have it. And Lorenzo, then we're done. Thanks.
Yeah. Coach, earlier here this week there was a huge announcement of the new sporting director, and listening, he was not here but listening, most of the words that came out, it talks about philosophy, it talks about identity, it talks about sustainable continued success. When one watches Sundowns and one listens to people from outside the country, they talk about this quality brand of football. How difficult is to have that culture inculcated coming from the down structures? And even as much as there's new ideas coming from outside, but how important it is to make sure that what this club has always been about in terms of its identity of play and how they do things is not really tempered.
I think we are the custodians of how Sundowns plays at this stage, and we are responsible for making sure that Sundowns looks the way it looks, and I do not think the arrival of Flemming is going to cause any problems in that regard. In fact, I think it's going to enhance maybe better continuity from the youth to the senior team. because it is very important that we start to embrace this position in South Africa, because it's a very important position throughout the world in all the big teams to have a sporting director that can make sure that all the processes of the first team do filter through to all the other divisions within the structure. He's coming with very vast experience in youth football. He's coming with vast experience in youth scouting, and that should add a lot of value in what we want to achieve as Sundowns. We at some point produced a lot of youngsters that even came to the first team, the Pesitaus and Madishas and all that. But of late we've not really brought a lot of youngsters from the youth, and those are the question marks that we must keep asking ourselves. And you then need somebody who becomes the direct link in making sure that whatever is happening in the first team does filter down to the other divisions. And it will also be nice for us to also learn a few things, because maybe there are some areas of the game that we are still short on. In football, you never stop learning. So to have somebody with such vast experience, who has worked for Chelsea, who has worked in the Danish Football Association, and they've done what they've done, you must believe there is something that you still have to learn. The moment you start thinking you have arrived in football, you are creating problems for yourself. And having met with Mr. Flemming and talking to him, sharing ideas in football, the first impression that I got is that he is a very good person. For me, it's the most important thing. That you are sitting with somebody who is open-minded, who is willing to learn from you, and that gives you a chance to also say, why would I not want to learn from this person if he also wants to learn from you? And besides, the talks I've had, they show that he's a very knowledgeable person, and I would still want to have a lot of opportunities to spend some time with him, so that I can pick and get a few things from him. And I've learned from probably all these technical directors that have come to Sundowns. Jose had some very important inputs in our academy and in our team. What's that? Ericsson. Eric also had the one who went to coach Iceland. He also had very good ideas about the game, and structurally very correct in many aspects. So personally, as a person, I'm very open-minded, and I know in life, if you always look at the negative side of things, you don't really get the best of what you should learn from each and every individual. But the first impressions that I have of Mr. Flemming is that he's going to really add a lot of value in our team, and everybody else, even our youth coaches, should be excited to be in that space and learn as much as they can, so that whenever he decides to leave one day, he leaves us with vast knowledge and experience that might be necessary to take our football as a country to the next level.
What is the last question? Thank you.
Coach, just George Maluleka's got into the team now, last 2 games, a goal, 2 assists. He's obviously a popular figure in the dressing room, judging by how they react over the last 2 games. How's it affected the squad as on a positive note, and has he said anything since his last 2 good performances?
No, I speak to George a lot, and we have supported George in his journey with the other coaches a lot, because him not playing at Sundowns has not been because he was not capable or he was not fitting in. And a lot of people tend to make that mistake. It has never been down to that, but the few instances that I can mention, George has been one of the most unlucky players that I've ever worked with ever since he joined Sundowns. I think on 3 or 4 occasions, in the last day of training when we are preparing to go, in match day -1, he's already in the team. We are going to play Baroka, we are going to play Galaxy, we are going to play certain matches that I can count. He's already in the team. In that last match, he gets injured. in a very sad way. You know, there was the last one where I remember he was on this right channel of the pitch and he was trying to pass Safranco. Last action of the training session, he was trying to pass Pavon, a very good pass behind the defense. Then the next thing, George is on the floor. What has happened? A quadricep. He has had those unfortunate situations and they were coming thick and fast. And he has worked tremendously to get himself into the team. And he understood very early how difficult it was going to be for him to get into our team in the shape that he was in when he arrived. I'm sure you can see how much weight he has lost as it is. He's working very hard. He's a very disciplined professional. No wonder a lot of people are interested in seeing him playing. And also no wonder how his teammates are also so supportive to him because they know the journey that he has traveled. It has been a very rough journey that you would say, why this boy has so much bad luck? Because he has been working very hard. And physically, everybody can see and can attest that he is not the same George that we have seen in the past 3 seasons. He's a totally different player physically. He has lost so much weight and is looking very mobile. And we are just hoping he can maintain and stay in the pitch as much as he can, because that also says to us we have gained maybe 1 or 2 or 3 more players at the end of the season, because we have gained George now that he's playing. We have gained Lebu from a long-term injury, and Gaston also is coming back to help the team, and those are positives for us, because at the moment when you are losing Rivaldo, you're asking yourself what is going to happen, but you find yourself gaining a player like George, you find yourself gaining Lebu, you find yourself gaining a Gaston, Saavedra is coming very soon, then the team again will still be having all the options that we've had in the past. So we are very happy for him as coaches. We are very happy as a club, because I think he adds a lot of value in our club.
That brings us to the end of the press conference. Coach, thanks for attending. Members of the media, thanks for coming in person. We really appreciate it. It's catering outside. We have some. Thank you.